What's up, guys, and welcome back to Will Sports Talk. So this is part 4 of my college football playoff dark horses for this coming up season, and in this video, I want to talk about the Louisville Cardinals. Now, before we jump into this coming up season, I kind of want to talk about last year for a little bit. Now, last year, Louisville's under-over win total was set at 8 last year. And they absolutely shattered expectations last year, finishing the season 10-2 before losing to Florida State in the ACC title game. Now, during this offseason, they didn't lose a whole heck of a lot. They did lose 4 players to the NFL draft during this offseason. They lost halfback Gerard Jordan. They lost wide receiver Jamari Thrash. They lost cornerback Jarvis Brownlee Jr. Then they also lost halfback Isaac Garendo. Now, during this offseason, they also lost their quarterback, Jack Plummer. During the offseason, he left to be an undrafted free agent. But with all the negatives, let's stop talking about the negatives. Let's talk about some of the positives for Louisville football going into this coming up season. Now, going into this season, Louisville returns 66 of their total production from a team last year that finished 10-2. That's 53% on the offense and then a whopping 79% on the defensive side of the football. I expect that to be their strength this coming up season. And then on top of all that, Louisville absolutely took advantage of that transfer portal by bringing in a total of 30 players this offseason, one of which they brought in Tyler Shaw from Texas Tech to replace Jack Plummer, who I mentioned left to be a free agent, an undrafted free agent this year. Now, let's talk about Tyler Shaw for a little bit. Tyler Shaw, I think, is a guy that is leaps and bounds better than Plummer. He's a veteran athletic quarterback. He's a pretty good arm, and he also has the ability to hurt you on the ground as well. But a issue I do have is last year, Tyler Shaw struggled to stay healthy at Texas Tech, so that's going to be a big question mark going forward for Louisville. Can he stay healthy? Because I believe if he can stay healthy, I believe he can have a big year for Louisville football this coming up year. Then on top of that, they also have transfer wide receivers Colin Lacey out of South Alabama. And then they have Ja'Cory Brooks out of Alabama, who I expect to be day one starters, and I expect them to be big playmakers for Louisville this coming up season. Now, let's jump over to the defensive side for Louisville. Defensively, they were already really good last year, finishing with the number 1 ranked rush defense in the ACC and the 21st overall total defense. So that defense was already lights out last year. And then on top of that, they returned pass rusher Ashton Gillote, who had a big year for Louisville last year, finishing with 11 sacks. And I expect him to be big for Louisville again this year. And then that defensive line for Louisville, I expect them to be big, strong. They're going to be physical. I believe they're going to be able to get to the quarterback this year. That's going to be a big strength for Louisville going into this coming up season. But the big strength and the reason I think this defense is going to succeed yet again for Louisville this coming up season is the secondary. I believe the secondary is going to be the number 1 strength of this team. They have Devin Neal returning, who was an all-ACC safety for them last year. And then they return most of their starters, the most starters on the secondary. And then they have transfers coming in And with all these transfers and these starters, I expect this secondary to be able to make a lot of plays. I expect this secondary to be really good. I expect them to be definitely top 10, if not pushing top 5. So I expect a big year from Louisville football this year. So without all that being said, let's kind of dive into the schedule and look at each game, just game by game, kind of piece it down a little bit. Now, they start off the year 2 easy games, Austin Peay and then Jacksonville State. I expect those to be pretty easy wins for Louisville. Then after that, they go into the bye week on September 14th. Then coming off the bye week on September 21st, they play Georgia Tech. I expect Georgia Tech to be improved this year. I still don't see them being on the same wavelength as Louisville. I believe Louisville wins this game pretty convincingly. And then on September 28th, this is where I think they hit their first roadblock. They got to go to Notre Dame. They got to go to South Bend. I believe Louisville goes into South Bend and loses a close one against Notre Dame. But then I think they bounce back at home against SMU, get a big win against SMU. Then they go to Virginia, and Virginia almost beat them last year. But I don't expect the same thing this year. I think this Louisville team is leaps and bounds better than this Virginia team. I expect that to be a big win for Louisville. Then they play Miami at home. I expect a back and forth, kind of a low-scoring game here. I do like Louisville to win a close one against Miami. Then they go to Boston College, another game that was close last year. But then again, Boston College got a new head coach. They got a lot of question marks surrounding that team right now. I expect Louisville to win a big one here. And then they go to Clemson. Now, Clemson's kind of a tricky one. They struggled tremendously on the offensive side of the ball last year. Garrett Riley was not near what I thought he was going to be for Clemson last year, calling plays. I expect this to be a close game, and I actually expect Louisville to go into Death Valley and beat Clemson in a close one. Then they had their second bye week on November 9th. Then on November 16th, they go to Stanford. Stanford, not a very good team. I expect that to be a big win for Louisville. Then November 23rd, they play Pitt at home. I expect that to be a big win. And then November 30th, they finish out the year against their rival Kentucky at Kentucky. Now, with this being a rivalry game, I do expect this game to be close. It's going to be back and forth. Another low-scoring game. Kentucky's won this game in the past few years. But this year, I expect things to be different. I expect Louisville to go into Kentucky and win a close one against their rivals. And that has Louisville finishing the year 11-1 and making that college football playoff. So, without being said, that's my Louisville prediction. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Let me know what y'all think. If y'all haven't, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And I hope to see y'all in the next one. Thank you.